Once again, welcome everyone to today's webinar on what makes digital sales enablement work and what doesn't. I know that we have people joining us from all over the world today, so good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you're calling in from. I have Nikolai with me here today, still working from our respective homes in very sunny and beautiful Copenhagen. Hi, Nikolai.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining.
I'll just turn on the webcam to prove the point, basically, and just to make it a little bit more personal. Hi, everyone. And hi, Nico. Thanks for joining me today.
Hello. No problem.
I'll let you introduce yourself first.
Sure. So, hello, everyone. I'm Nikolai Borsary. I'm the client director here in Agnisho, where I work with several life science industry companies who wish to digitalize their customer engagements and utilize the insights they collect through these engagements.
Thank you. And everyone, once again, hi, I am Frederica. I'm the product marketing manager here with Agnisho. So I handle a lot of our commercial product initiatives, making sure that the product meets your needs and is designed to fit whatever desires there are in the market in terms of digitalizing, specifically in life sciences. So thank you for joining once again. I'll turn it off so we can head into the presentation. So when planning this webinar and kind of prioritizing the topics of today, we asked you what reason you have for joining. And as you can see, the absolute majority of you are interested in learning what digital sales enablement is. I know that this was also the first option on your selection list, so I'll take the result with a grain of salt, but we will, of course, spend time on this. Other than that, a main interest seems to be on the possibilities of digital. So in a second, I'll hand over to Nikolai, who will then talk about the benefits and possibilities with digital sales enablement. Who is it relevant for, and how are our clients today working with digital differently? I will dig into the landscape of digital sales enablement solutions and what it is. What does the term comprise of solutions? How have we developed our digital sales enablement solution to fit the different needs and teams? And we'll then give you an introduction to what it actually looks like. Finally, we will leave you off with 5 steps to get going. Feel free to ask questions throughout the webinar. We'll try to take them as we go along, but otherwise we'll get back to you afterwards, of course. With that said, Nico?
Thank you very much. So when looking at trends and needs, you need to take a look at the people with whom you're communicating. And when looking at the customer of our customers, there is a majority of these being HCPs. And in this area, we see a clear pattern that the majority of these HCPs are becoming millennials, meaning that they are in fact digital natives, as we call them. And this goes very well in hand with what we see from other sources mentioning that approximately 70% of all HCPs in Europe this year are digital natives. And being digital natives also mean that there is happening a change in behavior compared with the previous generations. This generation, they want to get information when they have the desire for it, and they have an expectation that what you're able to customize, that you are in fact able to customize your messages based on their exact needs. But, well, to be honest, we don't really have to look much further than how we act these days with the COVID-19 enforcing us to communicate in different ways than what we've been used to. And the fact is that together across the life science industry, we've actually proved that we are able to communicate with this new mindset. So, I mean, the doubts about the digital transformation that some people might have before has drastically been minimized. And from an economical perspective, what is also important is to mention that according to Boston Consulting Group, who did this study a couple of years ago, they came to the conclusion that when life science companies are to invest in digital as part of the go-to-market strategy, you are likely to increase your revenue by up to 3%. And that actually goes well in hand with the second statement on this slide, the fact that of all high growth companies in the life science industry, 43% of these invested, in fact, in a sales enablement tool. But of course, just being digital isn't enough. You can have all the technology in the world, but if you're not able to interact with the HCPs, then you're still likely to miss out on potential earnings. That's why that once you understand the benefits of the technology, it would be worth to see how the content you're using can be optimized. At Ignition, we work with multiple kinds of documents such as PDFs, PowerPoints, HTML, etc. And we actually recommend that to ensure a quick go-to-market, you should actually start by using the content that you already have, that you already use today, which could be PDFs. And once you're familiar with how you actually are able to engage with these customers, then you can consider optimizing the formats to such as HTML, simply just to make your content stick out from the rest. And the reason why I mention HTML is that you can be much more creative with this format and getting your customers much more involved. What we see in our customer projects is that there are usually three key factors playing in the hunt of a successful relation with these group of people. Of course, there always must be a trust in you and in your product. But once you present your products, you need to be relevant based on the customer's needs. Insights that you've collected from previous engagements or through other channels can be key elements for this. And when knowing what to present, this needs to be presented in a quick and a simple way, as we all know that the HCPs of today usually are on lack of time already. And because the new HCPs expect to be treated individually, as I mentioned in the beginning, we need to change our mindset, going away from the B2B/B2C way of thinking over to a more human-to-human way of communicating. But again, to go back to talk about the elephant in the room, what we've experienced these last weeks and months is that a burning platform has emerged. The fact that we do indeed need to communicate in another way going forward than what we've been used to, online as well as offline. There's actually a somewhat harsh quote going around in the industry these days, saying that the COVID-19 has done more for digital transformation than anything else. And I mean, although harsh, I see the way we utilize these types of digital sales enablement tools has so many advantages that we now are able to capitalize on the customer engagement in so many ways compared to what we felt met our needs prior to the circumstances we are facing today. So we will, without a doubt, see a new normal going forward in the direct engagements with your customers. So now that we know there is a digital need and desire in the industry, who exactly would harvest the most value off of start utilizing digital sales enablement? Well, that very depends on your objective, to be honest. Is it because you want to improve the engagements from a content perspective, or is it because you want to optimize the dialogues between the reps and the HCPs? Well, for starters, I suggest that departments and regions within life science companies that works independently would benefit from having a sales enablement tool. I'm saying this because they often are in need for a quick implementation based on local needs while still staying compliant. An example of improving engagements, we have a German medtech company where we delivered a solution focusing on optimizing the customer knowledge and delivering insights back to them that help them being able to segment their customers and thereby becoming much more relevant in their communication. Here, they used HTML formatted content, enabling them to become much more agile during these meetings. And based on the meetings, how they started, they were actually able to adapt accordingly within the content. And we actually saw a big improvement in the duration of the meetings, expanding by 25%. Then we have another example being a mid-sized pharma company who simply wanted to improve the efficiency of their sales force. And with a long-term goal of creating personalized customer experience through content, but starting one market at a time, giving reps a tool that would assist them in collecting valuable information through the platform. This will give the reps a better customer relation going forward and help product management to create customized content in the future. Because the main objective is to create better customer experience, the goal is not yet set in numbers, but it's in the relationship between the rep and the ATP.
Thanks a lot, Nikolai. It's really great to hear some of the insights on how our clients are doing, and especially how they're starting small with one content piece at a time or one market at a time. It definitely is the way to go about it. So to start off here, I would just like to get us all on the same page and address what digital sales enablement is. At its most basic level, it means to empower customer-facing staff with digital tools to be more effective. Whether that is through more, longer, more customer-centric meetings, by driving more in knowledge through data, create better content, or align activities. There are many ways to go about it, which is also reflected in many types of solutions the term comprises. While we often think of digital sales enablement as one particular type of solution, it actually includes both CRM, digital asset management systems, content presentation or e-detailing tools. It includes closed-loop marketing or multi-channel platforms, and even online meeting technologies, that's especially evident at the moment, as that is the way we communicate globally. They're all different and have different strengths and limitations. For example, CRM is a great tool for aligning activities, getting a centralized customer overview, harmonizing workflows, and it often therefore is the foundation of digital transformation. That's also why organizations make huge investments here, especially globally, and it all often becomes a huge and long project. The good news here, if any one of you have been undergoing this process or is currently undergoing it, is doesn't have to be as complex in the next steps. So don't overthink it when you're looking at digitalizing customer engagements. The smaller, the better, actually. At Agnisho, we have a wide range of technologies, and they include a lot of the ones that I mentioned before: multi-channel, closed-loop marketing, online meeting, etc. But when we wanted to create what is more commonly known as a digital sales enablement solution, we wanted to take the parts of the system that could focus on a more easy start and a more easy way of driving digital, with success not being too far away. Scalability is then an option, but it's also just as much an option to stick with what fits your current needs and organizational teams. We split our solution into 3 packages, and they fit 3 different groups of needs. You can, as mentioned, grow from version to version naturally as you become more digital and familiarize with the system, but you can also just stick to the package that meets your team or organizational needs. If we take Rainmaker Content to the left-hand side, that package focuses on enabling you to deliver digital content to the sales force. No more, no less. You distribute compliant digital materials that sales teams can then use to engage customers. Can be all types of content pieces, and you don't need contacts, accounts, or any type of integration here. It's completely for free, and it doesn't have a limitation period to it. If you then look at Rainmaker Meetings in the middle, you start tracking data here to get insights on how your meetings and content is performing in the field. You can identify meeting trends, how much is content being presented, you can improve and respond, and then identify digital sales champions. I'll dig into this in a second as well. Finally, to the right-hand side, we have Rainmaker Meetings Plus. This is where sales reps begin to get a 360-degree view on their customers, whether individual contacts or accounts. You provide them with an overview of contact and account management so they can improve efficiency and meet their targets. It all happens, of course, within a controlled and compliant environment, as we're focusing on the life sciences here, and Nikolai will show this in a second. I just want to dig a little bit into the data here, because we often see that that is an obstacle for getting started with digital, deciding what you want to track, what are your KPIs, and how do you measure your success. The reports here are pre-built, so depending on the package you invest in, you get actionable insights either on, as mentioned, meeting performance, the number of engagements you have per month, how much content is being used and for how long. And then with smart trend lines, you can start to detect performance trends and indicators for the future. You can dig into content usage. So apart from how many times content is being presented and for how long, you know what customers, so you can start calculating the ROI of your content. That way you ensure that only the most up-to-date presentations are being used in the field. You can also identify sales champions. I mentioned this before, and that's not to put them up against each other, but it is to utilize those that are best at their digital capabilities. Digital is not necessarily for everyone right now. So it is important that it's not only the reps, but also the HCPs here become the champions in getting your success. You can then get insights to prioritize your sales and marketing efforts on the contacts that are of highest priority. This is detected through individual customer engagements. How are they responding to your content? For example, if you use HTML. And finally, you can use it to strengthen key account management by harmonizing messaging, making sure that everyone who has touch points with this account are harmonized and aligned, and they quickly get these insights together with the account trends with Rainmaker Sales Enablement. So with that said, I'll hand over to you, Nikolai, so you can show us a little bit of the system.
Great. Yeah, so how exactly does the solution work? Well, let's take a look at the Rainmaker Meeting Plus package that Frederikke talked about before. So in this scenario, what you see here on the screen is my iPad, and on the top you see the app Rainmaker, which is our app that you simply get from the App Store. And after entering and putting in my personal credential, I now have access to all the content, all the accounts, and all the contacts that has been uploaded to my environment. Then when having a meeting, I simply just click on the content that I want to use. I then click on the contacts that I am going to have a meeting with. And then down in the bottom, you see two blue icons. I will press on the top one. The bottom one, just for your information, is for our remote sessions. So I will press on the top one, as this is a face-to-face meeting. So what you see now is a blue tile appearing, which means that now the meeting has been arranged. And once I want to begin the meeting, I press on the blue tile, and I see a rocket, which means that once pressing that, I launch the meeting. Now, from this point, we start to track all the data that Frederikke talked about. So it's now possible to collect insights on meeting performance from a rep, from a customer, and from content perspective. I can go through this being a PDF, which is the kind of content that most of our clients are starting off with. But I'm also even able to if the direction of the meeting takes me there, I can actually just go ahead and choose another piece of content. Now in this case, it's just HTML. And just to show you what I meant about being more involved, getting the customers more involved, you can actually answer questions directly within the content in this example. So once, if you want to go back, of course you can do that. But once you're done with the meeting, you simply just close the meeting. From here on, all data insights, of course, are being stopped. But if you wanted to have it being transferred, then you simply just click on the cloud icon that you see on the blue tile, and then that makes it that the old data has now been transferred immediately to your data analytics part. It's very simple, very easy to use.
Thank you, Nico. And just before we round off with the 5 essential steps, I just wanted to let you all know, as we're talking sales enablement in the current situation, we have now made for the past couple of weeks, made our remote technology available for free to pharma and medtech companies during COVID-19. So sales enablement is also an option during these times of restrictions. We will ask you in a survey right after this webinar whether you would like to get access for this period. So just reply yes to that question and we'll get you set up immediately after. And so to round off, the 5 essential steps to get you running with digital sales enablement. Not much rocket science in this, but it is the way to make it a success when you start small. And I really do mean start small. So start by setting realistic goals and objectives, maybe short term and long term, so that you know you pick the solution that can fit your needs throughout the learning curve. But set realistic goals short term as well. Then start assessing your stakeholders. As I mentioned, digital is not necessarily for everyone right now. We do see trends that HCPs actually do want digital and they want customized content, interactive content. So there is a lot of going on here in your around your customers. But assess your stakeholders to figure out who should start here. The reps that are more inclined to start with digital, and also the HCPs. Then you can make it a success with them first and start scaling afterwards. And then before starting the testing, prepare the content. And here we're not necessarily talking HTML or e-detailers to begin with. Then it becomes a complex project again. Maybe you have it distributed from headquarters and then that's fine. But once you have been testing it in the field and evaluate, you can then start to make next actions. For example, develop more content. It might also be that what you're doing right now is fulfilling your needs once you've gone through the first process. But do you want to set new goals? As I mentioned, either developing new or more advanced content, could also be to get more stakeholders on board it, more reps or more HCPs. It could be to add a channel to your customer engagements, expand the data tracking, figuring out what it is that you actually want to track, what works for you and what do you not necessarily want to be tracking, or do you want to integrate it? The point is that there are many options, and thus that is why it's so important to start small so that you don't make this more complex than it necessarily needs to be. I would say that it's a loop, not just a learning curve, it's a learning loop. And therefore, when you start small, you can easily take it to the next level once you've had the small successes. Once you've familiarized with the process and the different stages, more and more people get on board, you know how to start looking into new content. There are smaller loops within the big loop. And that is what essentially makes digital sales enablement or digitalization work. It won't work when you make this way too complex, and it's going to take way too much time, and suddenly we're in a situation where we drastically need online meetings to communicate with each other. So break it down and start simple. fail fast, as we said in the brief for this webinar. Essentially, when you fail fast and have successes fast as well, that is how it becomes a long-term success as well. With that said, we are rounding off. So whether it's a team in an emerging market or a small team in Europe, there are different ways to go about this. Yeah, as mentioned, start small will of course help you. If you have specific questions to it, you can still put them into the questions box, and we will get back to you afterwards. With that said, thank you, Nikolai. Do you have any last minute comments or good advice for our listeners?
Well, no, I just, yeah, thanks for joining everyone, and I hope everyone is keeping safe, and well, hope that we are able to actually return to a new normal very soon. So thanks for joining.
Exactly. Yeah, we hope you're all safe, and hopefully we will then see you soon.